The countryside was quiet in a way that felt almost unreal. Rolling hills stretched as far as the eye could see, broken only by scattered cottages and winding dirt roads that seemed to vanish into the horizon. Nathan Hale sat in the driver's seat of his old car, the engine humming faintly as he reached the edge of the village he once called home. It had been 10 years since he left for medical school in the city, 10 years since he had promised himself never to come back, and yet here he was. The small wooden sign read, "Welcome to Willow Creek. Population 1532. The letters were faded, chipped by years of weather, and Nathan couldn't help but smile. Nothing seemed to change in this town. Or maybe everything had changed, and he was the one who didn't fit anymore. He parked outside the clinic, a small white building with peeling paint and ivy creeping up one side. The sight of it hit him harder than he expected. His father had once walked these same steps every morning, his worn leather bag in hand, greeting villagers by name, never turning anyone away, no matter how poor or desperate they were. Nathan had tried to forget the weight of that legacy, but standing there now, he felt it pressing on his shoulders like a stone. Inside, the air smelled faintly of disinfectant and old books. The wooden floors creaked beneath his shoes as he moved from room to room, each space holding ghosts of the past. The exam table where he once sat as a child, with scraped knees, the shelves lined with jars of herbs and medicines his father had collected, and the desk still stacked with records, handwritten in neat, careful script. He reached out and ran his hand over the surface, his throat tightening. "Dr. Hale?" A soft voice called from the doorway. Nathan turned quickly. An older woman with graying hair stood there, holding a basket of apples. Mrs. Whitmore, the baker's wife. He remembered her from his childhood. Her smile was the same, though her eyes carried the weight of years. "We heard you'd be coming back," she said warmly. "Your father would be proud. We've missed having a doctor here." Nathan forced a smile, though his chest ached. "Thank you, Mrs. Whitmore. I'll do my best." Her eyes softened. "That's all anyone can ask." She set the basket on the counter and left, her footsteps fading down the porch. For a moment, Nathan stood still, listening to the silence of the clinic. Outside, a storm was rolling in, dark clouds gathering above the fields, the wind beginning to whistle through the trees. It felt like a warning, or perhaps a challenge. Just as he was about to close up for the evening, the door banged open, and a man stumbled in, carrying a small boy in his arms. The child's face was pale, his body burning with fever. "Please, doctor," the man begged breathlessly. "He's been sick all day. I didn't know what else to do." Without hesitation, Nathan guided them into the examination room. His hands, though trembling at first, grew steady as he worked. The years of training returned to him. Instinctively, he checked the boy's pulse, listened to his breathing, and quickly prepared a treatment. Hours seemed to pass in minutes, the storm outside raging while Nathan worked tirelessly inside the clinic. When at last the boy's breathing eased and the fever broke slightly, Nathan allowed himself a long breath. The father's eyes filled with gratitude. "You saved him, doctor." "Thank you." Nathan shook his head. "He's not out of danger yet, but he'll make it." As the man left with his son, a flash of lightning illuminated the doorway, and there she was, a woman, cloaked and quiet, watching him from the shadows of the storm. Her gaze lingered on him with an intensity that made his heart skip. "Who are you?" Nathan asked, but the thunder drowned out his words. By the time he stepped forward, she was gone. Nathan stood in the empty clinic, the storm howling outside, the weight of his father's legacy heavy in his chest. He had come here for a fresh start, but deep down he knew this was only the beginning. The storm had passed by morning, leaving behind damp earth and a sky painted in shades of silver and pale blue. Nathan awoke on the old cot in the clinic's back room, his body stiff from the night's work. He had fallen asleep in his father's chair, a stack of patient files scattered across the desk. For a moment he felt disoriented, as though the storm had carried him back in time. When he pushed the papers aside to clear the surface, his fingers brushed against something unusual, a corner of yellowed parchment, poked out from beneath the false bottom of the drawer. Curious, Nathan tugged at it until the hidden compartment gave way, revealing a sealed envelope with his name written in bold, familiar handwriting. It was his father's. Nathan froze, staring at the letters as though they might vanish if he blinked. The wax seal was cracked with age, but still intact enough to send a shiver of anticipation down his spine. With trembling hands, he broke it open. "My son," the letter began. "If you are reading this, it means you have returned to Willow Creek, and it also means I am no longer there to guide you. I know you, Nathan. You always looked beyond these fields, beyond this village, dreaming of greater things. I never wanted to hold you back, but I asked you once for a promise that you would never forget where you came from, that you would never abandon these people, for they are more than patients. They are family. One day you will be tested, and I pray you will choose with your heart, not with your ambition." Nathan's throat tightened as he read the words. The ink blurred slightly by a stain, as if his father himself had wept while writing. The letter continued. "There are secrets in this town, Nathan. Not dark ones, but fragile ones. You may not understand now, but you will soon. Trust those who guide you, even if you do not know their full story. Above all, remember your promise. Keep it, and you will find the purpose you've been searching for." Nathan lowered the letter slowly, his chest heavy with emotions. He didn't want to face. He remembered being a boy, no older than 10, sitting by his father's side, as he declared, with childish pride, that he would grow up to be a doctor just like him. He had sworn then that he would take care of the town forever. But he had broken that promise the moment he left for the city, chasing recognition and wealth. Now, reading his father's words, guilt clawed at him. Had his father known he would fail, or had he always believed Nathan would return when the time was right? Before he could sink deeper into the storm of his thoughts, a knock sounded at the clinic door. Nathan quickly folded the letter and tucked it back into the drawer. Standing outside was the woman from the storm. She looked different in daylight, her cloak gone, replaced by a simple dress and a basket in her arms. She had dark hair, braided neatly over her shoulder, and her eyes carried an unreadable intensity. "You were watching me last night," Nathan said carefully. She smiled faintly. "I was making sure you were who you claimed to be. The town has been without a doctor for too long. We needed to see if you could handle it." Nathan bristled. "And who exactly are you?" "My name is Clara," she said simply, stepping past him into the clinic as though she belonged there. "My mother was the midwife here years ago. I grew up watching your father work. I know what this place means, and I know what he expected from you." Her words cut deep, as though she had read the letter herself. Nathan studied her carefully, searching for some trace of explanation. "Why do I feel like you know more than you're telling me?" Clara set the basket on the counter. "Fresh herbs, bandages and jars filled with remedies. Because I do. But the time for answers will come when you've earned them. For now, remember what you promised your father. These people are counting on you." She turned to leave, but not before glancing back at him, her gaze steady and haunting. "The question is, Dr. Hale, will you keep your word this time?" Nathan stood in the empty room once more, the folded letter burning like fire in his pocket. The weight of his father's promise and Clara's strange certainty pressed down on him. Outside, the sun broke through the clouds, lighting the fields in gold. It should have felt like a new beginning, but to Nathan, it felt like a test, one he wasn't sure he could pass. The days that followed brought no peace to Willow Creek. What began as a simple fever among a few villagers spread quickly, leaving half the town coughing, weak, and bedridden. For the first time since arriving, Nathan felt the weight of true responsibility pressing against his shoulders. He was no longer the ambitious city doctor chasing recognition. Here he was the only hope the people had, from sunrise until long after the moon climbed the sky. The clinic bustled, with the sounds of desperation, children crying, mothers pleading, and the old whispering prayers. Nathan's hands moved tirelessly, checking pulses, mixing tinctures, applying cool cloths. His coat grew stained with sweat and medicine and his voice grew hoarse from giving instructions, but he refused to stop. Through it all, Clara was there. She moved silently between rooms, carrying herbs, preparing teas, or sitting at the bedsides of the frightened. She had an instinct for soothing the sick that Nathan couldn't ignore. More than once, he caught himself watching her, the way she calmed a child with a soft lullaby, or the quiet determination that kept her awake even when exhaustion weighed heavily on her. "You're not just a midwife's daughter, are you?" Nathan asked one night, as they both sat slumped against the clinic wall, too tired to stand. Clara looked at him, but didn't answer. Instead, she handed him a cup of water. "You should drink. You've done more in 3 days than most would in a month." But Nathan wasn't satisfied. "Why do you care so much whether I succeed? Why were you watching me from the storm? Why do I feel like you're waiting for me to fail?" Clara's eyes softened, though her expression remained guarded. "Because your father saved lives here, Nathan. He gave everything for this town. When he passed, people lost not just a doctor, but their anchor. I couldn't let them lose hope again. I had to see if you were strong enough to carry his promise." Her words struck deep, stirring a mix of anger and shame inside him. He hated the reminder of the promise he had abandoned, but at the same time, he couldn't deny that she was right. The outbreak worsened before it improved. One evening, a family rushed in carrying their only son, a boy of 6, his skin burning with fever. The father, a simple farmer with calloused hands, begged Nathan to save him. Nathan worked feverishly, applying everything he knew, while Clara brought herbs that eased the child's breathing. But hours stretched on with no improvement. Exhausted, Nathan sank into a chair, his head in his hands. "I can't lose him," he muttered. Clara knelt beside him, her voice firm yet gentle. "You won't. Not if you stop doubting yourself." "But what if I'm not enough?" She reached out, placing a hand on his arm. Her touch was steady, grounding. "Your father always said medicine is more than science. It's faith too. You have the knowledge, Nathan. Believe in it. Believe in yourself." Her words sparked something inside him. Rising, Nathan tried again, this time with renewed focus. He mixed a stronger tincture, cooled the boy's body with cloths, and whispered encouragement to the child, as though his words alone could summon healing. By morning, the boy stirred, his fever breaking. When the family wept with gratitude, Nathan felt a surge of relief, unlike anything he had ever known. For the first time he saw what it meant to truly heal, not just bodies, but hearts. Yet, even in victory, doubts gnawed at him. As he stepped outside to breathe in the dawn air, he overheard villagers whispering. They spoke of Clara, how she was more than she appeared, how her connection to the Hale family ran deeper than anyone knew. Nathan's chest tightened. Clara was a mystery wrapped in kindness, but he could no longer ignore the question building inside him. Who was she really? And why did she care so much about a promise he barely remembered? The outbreak reached its breaking point, just as the village began to lose hope. Every bed in the clinic was full, the shelves of medicine nearly bare, and Nathan's body screamed for rest. Yet he refused to stop. He remembered the letter from his father, the heavy promise inked onto that fragile piece of paper. "Never abandon them, Nathan, no matter how hard the road becomes." That morning, 2 urgent cases arrived at once. On one side, a wealthy landowner, Mr. Alden, collapsed from fever. His family stormed the clinic, demanding Nathan prioritize him, reminding him that their money kept the clinic's doors open. On the other, a farmer carried in his little daughter, limp and pale, her breath shallow and rattled. Nathan froze. Both lives hung in the balance, but he could only treat one immediately. The room erupted in shouts, the landowner's sons barking orders, the farmer sobbing and begging for his daughter. The weight of the entire town pressed down on Nathan's shoulders. Clara stood at his side, her voice quiet, but steady. "This is the moment, Nathan. What will you choose?" His mind raced. Logic screamed at him. To treat the landowner, keeping Alden alive meant funding for medicine, supplies and the clinic's survival. But his heart heard the words of his father and saw the pleading eyes of a desperate farmer who had nothing to give but trust. Nathan's decision came like lightning. He knelt beside the little girl. "Get me water, herbs, and fresh linens." "Now," the landowner's sons shouted in outrage. "You'll let our father die while you save a beggar's child." Nathan didn't look up. His hands moved with precision, cooling the girl's burning body, preparing medicine with the last of his supplies. "A life is a life," he said firmly. "No one's worth more than another in this place." For hours, he worked tirelessly, Clara at his side, whispering prayers and encouragement. Slowly, the girl's color returned, her breathing steadied, and her tiny hand curled weakly around Nathan's finger. Relief washed through the clinic like a fresh wind, and the farmer fell to his knees, weeping thanks. Meanwhile, Clara rushed to the landowner's bedside. Though Nathan couldn't leave the girl, Clara applied her knowledge, tending to Alden with herbal remedies and cooling cloths. Against all odds, the man's fever broke by evening. Both lives were spared. When the sun rose the next day, golden light streaming into the clinic windows, the town gathered outside. Whispers spread quickly. The young doctor had saved the farmer's child over the richest man in town. Some feared Alden would retaliate, but instead, the landowner himself stepped forward, pale but alive. He looked at Nathan with an expression that carried both humility and gratitude. "You could have let me die," Alden admitted, his voice raspy. "But you didn't, and though you chose another first, you still saved me. Perhaps I've been blind to what this town truly needs." He placed a hand on Nathan's shoulder. "Your father would be proud." The crowd erupted in cheers, relief, and admiration. For the first time, Nathan felt not just tolerated, but truly accepted. He had proven himself, not by chasing recognition, but by standing by the promise his father once made. Later, as the clinic quieted, Nathan found Clara standing by the old oak outside. Her face glowed in the soft morning light, her eyes warm yet unreadable. "You knew, didn't you?" Nathan asked softly. "You knew I would be tested." Clara nodded. "Your father asked my mother to watch over you. He feared you would forget the promise you made as a boy. I stayed because I needed to be sure you remembered." Nathan swallowed hard, emotions tightening his chest. "And now, will you leave?" For the first time, Clara's lips curved into a smile. "Now that you've proven yourself, perhaps I can finally stay, not as a guardian of your father's promise, but as someone who believes in yours." The wind rustled through the trees, carrying with it a sense of peace Nathan had never felt before. Looking out at the village, his village now, he realized his journey had just begun. He was no longer running from promises. He was living them, and with Clara beside him, he knew he would never face the trials of the heart alone again.